Welcome to Seizing Valor, where we discover God's path to manhood one conversation at a time. I'm Josh.
I'm Zack.
That was messed up.
In a way, are we all, Zack?
Yeah, well, we wanted to get it through. We heard Josh's pace, and we could tell he was going for a record there, so I guess we both jumped the gun.
I was trying not to laugh. I was trying to say as fast as possible.
That's okay. We'll keep that.
Yeah,
we'll keep that in post.
I agree.
It adds personality.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Which we need a lot of. We need a lot of help in that department.
Oh, yes. Boring as can be, we appreciate anyone who is still listening to us. We might as well be NPR. So, we are here to talk about God in our lives. And this is brought to you by the Bible. That's my NPR voice.
Ascension presents.
Ascension presents. Ascension presents more stuff about faith. So,
we sound like golf commentators.
So please join us.
With the whispering.
Today we discuss the story of Samson and Delilah. Here we go.
Is Samson gonna give in?
But if we talk about David and Goliath, if we talk about something like that, we would have to be WWE commentators.
And he hits him with the rock in the forehead.
And he hits him with the rock, no! Or like Joe Rogan. Oh!
His eyes are out. His eyes are out.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
An interesting strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out for him.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Nice. That's a good one.
Anyway, so what we are actually talking about today, in whatever voice we decide to talk about it, we are going to be talking about how our own experience and image of our father, our biological fathers, or, whoever is your father in your family, affects how you see God and your relationship with God. So that is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit of some theory behind that. We're going to talk a little bit personal, maybe. So
kind of off the cuff.
We're gonna get
some personal account.
Yes. Oh,
very good.
But before that,
how's everybody's week?
Joe, why don't you go first, since both Josh and I were asking at the same time?
I concur. I might have stuff to tell. I might not. It's off the cuff, as we said before. I had a really good week. I've had a lot of later nights just because I've had to coach quite a couple meets too this past week. And now at my job, kids are going through midterms, which invites its own problems in case we've all had midterms before. It's invited its stresses. But in good news, my girlfriend and I, we decided to make it official a couple days ago. So that's really exciting. You can hit the key.
I don't know if you can hear it, but it's applause.
We made it official. I asked her in a library while we were just looking at the books and stuff like that. I kind of had it planned for it to be in sort of a quaint location. What's your stereotypical library that you see? I imagine, and this was your very stereotypical library. They got the green lamps and stuff like that. Every single library. What's that?
This sounds like the Harvard Library. Or
exactly.
Green carpeting and the wooden paneling.
Yes. we were in the sci-fi section when it was made official.
So
nobody else around. It's empty.
But that was my highlight.
Nice. Very good. That's great.
It's now podcast official. So hello, listeners and world. Joe has a girlfriend.
Can I ask your name? Should we not say?
We won't say names, but
okay.
You know who you are.
Your first and last name.
If you're a supportive girlfriend and you listen to us, then you know who you are.
Does she know about this podcast?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, she does. She watches it.
Hi, Joe's girlfriend.
Yes. Hello.
I do know your name, but I'm not going to say it.
I feel like there should have been more, but We appreciate your patronage.
You guys know her name off camera, but
Yeah, but we're not going to let the world know that.
This
Take care
bit's
of our
going
boy Joe.
Yeah, this bit's going way too long.
Yes, we're talking about this way too much. Who's next? Anything else,
Josh.
Joe? Anything else?
No, I'm fair and square and primed and ready to go for the next person. Josh, you take it away.
Okay, so it was a fine week, the same as always, I guess. Just kind of doing my thing, did a lot more applying at jobs, and spent time with the family. I had like a nice day today where I kind of was out of the house for a bit, which was nice. I was gonna get my tailor set up, so I was gonna take it to the local Sam Ash, which actually is not that local. It's like an hour away. So I kind of made a whole morning of it. Like I went to a diner, had a cup of Joe, just stared out the window, just really nice by myself. And then I walked around the mall for a little while because this was like right next to a mall. And then, but then when I got in there, when it was open at 12, and I went in the back, took my guitar out and everything, and I like walked in there and there was like nobody working there. And finally there was one guy and he was like, "Oh, what do you need? My bro, my dude." And I said, "I want my guitar set up." And he said, "Oh, well, actually the guitar specialist just quit a couple days ago. And so we're seriously back ordered because I'm the only person who works here now. And so I'm doing all of that." And he said the turnover is a month. And I said, "Goodbye. I'm leaving."
Well, I have a question, Josh. More importantly than the Sam Ash, which invites its own sets of questions. When you were at that diner and you were staring out the window, were you contemplating life? Were you contemplating things? What were you thinking about?
I was thinking about the future, hoping to get employment and to reorder my life and my family. So I was just envisioning that, I guess.
There's nothing better than sipping coffee, thinking about life.
I know, and I don't always get to do that much these days since having kids. There was a time period when they slept in and I could. No, it's no longer that. It's unless I wake up at like 5 a.m., which I could do, but most days I don't want to.
Understandable.
So makes it difficult, but it's been nice overall.
I'm very surprised at Sam Ash only having one employee.
Yeah, they're struggling. The past, I saw some reviews just when I was looking up how to get there on Google, and a lot of people did not like that store. Apparently, there's some leadership issues and stuff. So, not some good people working there, which would make sense if everyone quits. Which is funny because I was actually looking to work there, and like after that, I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. But
you should go there, lead a coup d'etat, and take over as
change
the
it up
and change the culture.
Own Sam Ash.
I'll dress up like William Wallace and I'll like storm it.
People in the mall are like,
the face paint and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, so just contemplating the future, longing for the path, and hoping to achieve that path, whatever it may be, and to be content with it. Because we kind of had a moment today. So I came home, and I guess the kids were kind of struggling a bit because it's been so like nasty. It's been the weather has been awful.
Yeah.
And so like we haven't been able to go outside like this month. And so it's just been like the kids are really kind of wanting to get out, and then when we get annoyed in our current standing, like the kids feel it, and they kind of know and resonate with that in a negative sense, and tend to kind of act out and all that stuff too, especially when we kind of become reclusive, like I do, especially during this time. So, but I had a moment today where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just try to be. I'm going to have an attitude adjustment here. Like I'm going to try to choose joy, and I'm going to be present, and I'm going to be a good father. So I was, and you know what? It was great.
Yeah.
I read books. I with the kids, and we had a dance party, and I made them dinner, and I did some school stuff with Eli. I've been teaching him how to read, which is fun. He had kind of like a cool breakthrough today where he's able to like read a sentence. And so I was just like present. I was with them. And then a lot of joy kind of came from that, because normally I just like I'm there, but I'm not with them. I'm like sitting there, or I'm like zoning out, I'm kind of mopey and all that crap. But today I was like, I'm gonna invest, and it paid off. Good. It really did. They were very good, and was a great time. We were dancing, having fun. I was throwing them all over the room, and in a good way.
Yeah, for all we know, in 20 years or so, this could be a great day that they could have, harkened back to.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'd like more of these. So it was nice because I feel like I've been in a lull for quite a while, actually, and so it's nice that I kind of was able to break out of it today and just to kind of be present and here as opposed to like, yeah. So it was good. It was like a nice little breakthrough moment today.
Dang. Yeah. That would have been an awesome transition into our topic had you gone last.
I should have gone last. So we can circle back when you're done.
You could
we could always reorder it in editing, I guess. That's but true. It might make a little less sense.
True.
Yeah. But all right, cool. So on my end, first Exodus 90 update.
This just in.
Breaking
news.
So yeah, I mean, it is definitely getting a little bit, a little more difficult. It's not like it's like hitting me like a sledgehammer, me like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But there's definitely some like chinks like coming in, because I'm getting to the net. Like the longer you go, the more you get to a point where you have like a moment where you get like frustrated, or you get like, or it's like those moments that you want to like run to those comfort things, and that's when it gets hard because you took them. You're not doing them. So I guess that was. I've been hitting one or two of those recently, just where I kind of want to go back to the indulgences to try to like make myself feel better, but then having to force myself to not do that, even though I definitely slipped up probably at least once, but then got myself back on track. But anyway, yeah. And then also I'll kind of talk about this, but I was like on a work trip. And some of the stuff, there's two things to it. There's one is like sometimes you feel like, and I'm sure once again, Josh, with you and doing it while you were married, like there's this level of it impacts other people, and then you feel bad, and then so like I kind of was flexible in certain ones. Like I was on a work trip, like I was staying in a hotel room with like one of my coworkers. And like they wanted to watch TV, so I'm not going to be like, no, we can't watch TV. I just kind of like was like, okay, we'll just watch TV because I don't want to be a pain to him. And then also there's this level of I feel like I'm being annoying. Like when I have to tell everyone all the time, it's like, oh yeah, I can't eat that, I'm doing Exodus 90. Oh yeah, I can't do that, I'm doing Exodus 90. Oh yeah, I can't do that. Like, oh, I'm fasting today, I'm sorry. Like it's one of those things that I'm worried I'm getting to be annoying to people. And I've told them, I'm like, if I'm getting annoying, please tell me to stop. Viewers, if you get tired of listening to this, too bad, because you have to.
Yeah, you have to put up with it.
But yeah, I mean, it's still good. I mean, there's still lots of good that's coming out of it. It's once again the increased focus. I've gotten myself to do like work on certain projects. I do chores a lot more now, which is great. Which my house is very thankful for. That is that I'm doing chores and things are clean, and I'm on time to a lot more things, which is great because I don't have as many distractions, which is good for me punctually. Yeah. So, but overall, it's not bad. Just definitely the challenge is starting to present itself, but that's all the more reason I need to keep going. So, yeah. So that's that. So more on just the day to day of my life. So this past weekend, this past Friday was the pro-life march. So the national march in Washington. Pro-life march in Washington. So our office attended, or at least part of our office attended. Myself, our boss, as well as like our secretary for Life and Dignity, all went down. So on Thursday we had like a leadership. It was essentially a leadership day. So we went down to the Franciscan Monastery of the Holy Land, which is this really cool monastery where they have. So first of all, I didn't know this. Apparently, within the Catholic Church, the Franciscans have been entrusted with the duty of helping to preserve and protect the Holy Land and like the shrines there, which I never knew that.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's like a division of the Franciscans that like do that in the Holy Land, and I guess they also are here. And so when they're here, they're in Washington. But what's cool about their monastery is like that they're in the monastery. They have like replicas of like the sanctuaries of like some of the churches in the Holy Land. So there's like a replica of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. There's one from Calvary, so like where Jesus was crucified. There's one for Nazareth, for like the Church of the Holy Family, like where they grew up, or where Jesus grew up. There's one for the Nativity in Bethlehem. So they have the kind of like this, it's around the outside of the church, and as well as kind of there's like a crypt underneath the church where you can like go to all these replicas. And they have actual like pieces, like for example, have like a piece of rock just like kind of in the center that's like from the Holy Land, and you can like touch it and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. The Holy Sepulchre one is definitely we couldn't see most of them because it was closed during that time, but we could go into the replica of the Holy Sepulchre, which they have like this replica of the tomb of Jesus, which you can go down and you can pray in there, and there's like a tabernacle and everything. So it was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Very moving. And then we had like this leadership mass. So pretty much anybody in diocesan leadership is invited, and it was a beautiful mass. I don't remember which bishop said it. But man, there was this cantor there, and I think it had to do with the acoustics in this place as well, because this church was beautiful. It was before I go on by further, like the church was one of those churches. So there was like 4 sets of pews. So there was like a north, south, east, west type of thing, and the altars in the middle, which was pretty cool. I like it because it makes it feel like we're kind of all, I don't know, makes it feel more like the sacrament is like in the middle, like in the center.
I like that.
Yeah. But as I was saying, so the acoustics in here were amazing, and this singer that was like the cantor just was knocking it out of the park. Like I felt so spiritually awakened, and just it was so beautiful. And I felt bad because during mass, in the back of my head, I was like, please, congregation, stop singing, because I just want to listen to her. And frankly, the person 2 seats behind me is really not that good of a singer, and is kind of ruining the mood.
There's always one.
Yeah.
But singing is prayer, so that's not that.
Yeah.
So everyone is supposed to sing. I wasn't singing because I wanted to listen, but anyway, so that was cool. And then there was like an expo, like one of the hotels. There's like this huge pro-life expo with different organizations with all their stuff, like whether it was educational stuff or it was, I don't know, there were vendors and merchants and like a bunch of stuff, which was pretty cool. And then we just kind of hung out at a gastro brewery. I think it was like this Korean gastro brewery place where it was interesting. I don't drink, and I wouldn't be able to anyway. Nope, I'm mentioning Exodus 90 again. Anyway, so they got to sample the wares, but it was still a good restaurant, and we just talked for a really long time, which was good as like a bonding with the office. It was really awesome. We talked about like movies and sports and all this different stuff. We were there for like hours, which was pretty cool. And then so I was actually staying with my boss. So like in the room that we were staying in like a micro hotel. So it was like an economy sized room. So we were in bunk beds, which was interesting. I had to be in the top bunk as the younger of us, but like it was just interesting because it was just like it was even smaller than a college dorm probably, but it was an interesting experience, and and we made it work. But anyway, so then the next day then was the actual march, but I had to go to a youth rally in the morning. So I went there. It was at where the Washington Mystics, like the WNBA team, plays. So I don't remember what it's called, but it was there. And there was this rally, which was pretty cool. A bunch of speakers, music, mass, holy hour. And then took the metro up to the march and the Capitol Mall, which that was my first time taking the DC Metro, which was pretty interesting. I don't usually take subways for most things, so I was kind of nervous, but it all worked out, and it was it's a coolish thing, I guess, taking the subway. I guess if you're someone who doesn't normally take the subway, I guess it is. But if you're someone who always takes the subway, you're probably like,
it's whatever. No, but it's an event.
Yes. So then we were at the march. So then at the march, so we started like at the National Mall. There was a huge rally, thousands and thousands and thousands of people gathered, and it was my first time at the march, even though it's been a yearly thing. This is the 50th one. So it's really cool just to see all those people sharing that same belief, like in one space, and just like fighting for something they believe in. And there were a bunch of speakers, there were politicians, like all that stuff. But when everyone started paying attention and everyone started listening was when Jonathan Rumi showed up, guy who played Jesus. There again, second time I've seen him in a month. that
That's
he
crazy.
just randomly showed up at something. But he got up there and he brought the house down with this speech that just, I wouldn't even be able to repeat it, but just like talking to the young people and their like call to like change the world and to like, change media, change, the way things work, just to be a force for change and like be more devout in their faith. And just, it was just so awesome. And obviously they were all very intently listening to him, because I think they could care less about the politicians. But when a TV star that plays Jesus shows up, they're all ears, and which I think is great. I think it's great that such a devout man is playing Jesus as and I think it's making a difference. And he was very humble about it. He like talked about how he didn't want necessarily all of this pressure and this everything on him, but he's doing it because he feels like he's being called to do it, and by God and stuff. But yeah, so anyway, and then there was the whole march, and then we came home, and so yeah, we marched around, we watched in front of the Senate buildings and the Capitol building, and so yeah, and it all went as smooth as it could, I suppose. Right. Yeah, and then I don't know, did anything else happen on Saturday and Sunday? And then we had like a mass, like in our diocese, like in honor of the pro-life movement, on Saturday to kind of wrap things up. But yeah, so that was the biggest thing that happened to me over the weekend. So it was good. It was good to stand up for a cause, good to bond with my coworkers. Yeah, it was overall a good experience.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy that you're at this job. It sounds like you've really come into, I don't know, it's a beautiful experience to see it unfold.
Yeah, thanks, man. Though I definitely do feel like 4 days off and a lot of things came down the pipeline for me today. So like that was definitely one of those stressful experiences that that I had to shoulder there and struggled with a little. But yeah, a lot of things happened while I was gone. So, but typical Monday business. So yeah, cool.
Speaking of stressful experiences,
is that really the way we want to transition with?
That's the segue.
Sometimes it could be a stressful thing to have a father who makes stressful decisions. I don't know why I keep saying stressful. That just seems like a buzzword.
I think we need to start this over.
You can't blame me. It's the only thing I could think of.
This is why Josh needed to go last. So Josh is a dad. We're going to talk about dads
intentionality
to the dad.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about dadology today. Papaology.
Yeah. So
how
I think on my heart for this was like the whole concept was like, obviously our first experience of dad, well, obviously is our dad. And so I think oftentimes there's a relation between how we view God the Father and how we view our earthly dad, our earthly father. Mm-hmm. And recently I've been doing a lot of self-reflection on this topic, this idea. And I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on this topic.
Yeah. Well, this made me think of like I've thought about this like a lot, even in the past year or so too. But now also currently doing the catechism in a year right now with Father Mike, this idea kind of resonated with something that he talked about in the first few days. So from a logical perspective, so like in paragraph 40 of the Catholic Catechism, it says, since our knowledge of God is limited, our language about him is equally so. We can name God only by taking creatures as our starting point in accordance with our limited human ways of knowing and thinking. So essentially what that says is like we as limited human beings cannot fathom the infiniteness of God. It's just impossible. So like in order for us to relate to God, we have to, or even describe God, we have to do it through things we already know and we already comprehend. Yeah. So when we talk about God as Father, immediately what we do when we envision and then try to picture that is we reference our own fathers, because that's along that same concept. We're using something we know in relation to to God himself, which that also reciprocates the fact that every created thing has some sort of mirror to God, like, they reflect God in some way. And I think fathers in particular, especially since God is called Father, fathers in particular have a very strong reflection in one way or another of God, or like at least the way we see him. So
no, I agree. A father's nature provides a window, or like you said, reflection through which we experience the heart of God. Our relationship with our biological father, or in some cases stepfather, should prepare us for our relationship with our Heavenly Father.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I guess it's hard then for us to think about it, like, because as you said, Josh, like, you kind of only discovered to start thinking about this because all of us really only have one father, and we've never experienced what other people's true experience of their father is. So we only have, in the same way as we only have one way that we relate to our biological father, we each all only have one way in which we relate to God, like, which is obviously connected. So like my image of God is not necessarily exactly the same as either of your images of God. And that can be partly because all of our relationships with our fathers are all different. And so, but in our brains, we think it should be like universal, if that makes sense, or like that isn't this the way everyone sees God type of thing, or like we can start to think that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Definitely. It's like we're projecting an image of what we believe God is based on our own experiences here. But in doing so, we also we limit him, which is interesting because obviously he's limitless. But like that's the only way we can fathom anything is if we try to label him, if we try to put him in a box, if we try to envision him as God and what he would be like, we're limiting him.
Exactly.
It's pretty
That's
crazy
the paradox
to think about that. But yeah, I mean, but obviously he gives us revelation and he appears in certain ways and affects us and all that stuff, and we can see him in this world and through existence and through love and sacraments. But yeah. So what would your guys' image, what does that look like for you guys then? If you you have of this projection of God because of your own dad, was there anything that ever stuck out to you, like within the way that you pray, or the way that you think or that you experience God? Is this something that's kind of similar in that sense, or have you ever had any difficulties or struggles as a result of this relationship?
I have for the longest time, I envisioned God as a very authoritarian figure, strict, and always quick to cast judgment, and intent on their own way, complete control or obedience. That's how I thought of it for the longest time. And, over time, as I experienced the love of other people and also like my father too, I understood a lot better that if I'm exposed to characteristics such as people being concerned, fathers being concerned, and less harsh and judgmental, or in some cases for some people, absentness, I would know that I'm kind of putting it in that box of emotionally there for their child, So.
There you go.
It's an interesting question because it really does make you think. It's something you really have to dive into. For me, I mean, I guess there's always positive and negatives. So for anyone listening, I mean, obviously no one's dad is perfect. Like whether they are, I mean, there's a lot of fathers out there that are good, great men, but even the goodest and greatest are not perfect, and they do things not necessarily always intentionally, but sometimes without meaning to, they make certain impressions. So with my dad, I mean, like at least some of the good, I would say that I feel like I've got from the image of my father for God is that is very patient in a certain way, loving, looking out for you. Like I always felt that. I always felt secure. I always felt like God cared about me. Like I always and cared about like my welfare and was going to provide for me. But maybe on like, and I think my dad has done a fantastic. I love my dad, and I feel like my dad is a wonderful father. But there's sometimes, I guess, a level of, and I'm not sure if this 100% comes from my dad, but at least probably at least partially. Is that growing up, my biggest thing was I never wanted to disappoint anybody. I never wanted to, and I always thought, maybe I thought people were more easily disappointed than I thought they were. So I think that I projected that on God a little bit. This idea is that like I had to pick the exact right way of doing things. Or else people and therefore God would be disappointed in me. So like if I, didn't get the grades on the tests, or if I didn't perform in the sports, or if I didn't, I didn't follow the rules, I didn't didn't behave myself, that, people would be disappointed in me. I would be a burden, so to speak. And then with God, it kind of like transferred over this idea that, if I didn't pick exactly what he wanted me to do, that he would accept it, but there would be this level of like, he still would be disappointed. Like,
yeah.
So like, especially when it comes, I guess that bled into like choosing like my vocation or my career or my path in life. I always felt like I had to choose exactly what God wanted me to do before, like, I needed to know so I could pick exactly with what he wanted. So I could be the good and obedient son, so that I wouldn't be like, and people say it's like, there's a lot of choice that you have in that. And I feel like, yes, but I feel like if I don't choose right, he's going to be like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm still kind of disappointed, type of thing, which I don't think my dad was that internally. Like, even if it's sometimes, and it could have been both my parents, or could have been a lot of other things too. But I mean, sometimes it maybe would come off that way, I suppose. Like it would look that way, or, I don't know. I mean, I always feel like my dad is proud of me and my dad's always there for me, but I don't think through any intention of his own, I guess I developed a little bit of that, so to speak. That was, so I don't know. I guess that's the biggest part. But in the end, I would always say I always had a positive overall vision of God and of God the Father. And I never really feared God the Father, or I never really, like, I don't know. I always felt like I could trust God the Father in the way, because I always felt like I could trust my dad. I always felt like I could, that my dad cared, and that, I always had a positive vision of my dad. And maybe with two is like, my dad is definitely a doer. Like he does things, and the way he shows love is by doing things for everybody, which is fantastic. And I love that. Sometimes as a son, I guess I took advantage of that, and and I just kind of let him, do things for me. And sometimes I wish I would have done that. I would have stood up and like done things with him more. And maybe I was afraid of doing it wrong, or, I was maybe afraid of, I guess maybe without, like, I don't think this was my dad's intention, but maybe sometimes it's the way I took it, is that, that I wouldn't be able to do it, or, I guess I stopped trusting myself to be able to do those types of things. So, maybe there's that level of where that, fear of disappointing people came from, maybe a little bit, and then maybe that's how I kind of transposed it onto God. So that was a deep dig, that was a deep dive there. So.
No, that's good. That's good.
Well, I'll do you one too. I suppose, and I love my dad too. I suppose, because for one thing you need to know about my dad is that he's very good at finding out why you did something, particularly when you're younger, why you did the misbehaving that you did. Finding that out for one thing, and also very easily can find it out right quick, because he knows the order of the house and knows that something is off. It's kind of interesting how that happened. It was a big house, and he just knew. Or so when I was younger, I thought like I couldn't get away with anything then, which kind of like distorted my view of God in a way that, like, of course, God is omnipresent, and knows what you're doing at all times. That much is true, but also is quick to judge, quick to and write you off for one thing. That's what I thought. That's where my pitfall was. And it took me a long time to understand that, God is not like your earthly dad. God is not like your earthly dad. We are like our earthly dads. Like we've got flaws, we got brokenness. And for one thing, we're in need of our Heavenly Father. And that's where the disconnect could be, or the disappointment could be in us. But, in our trusting of Him, that's where the true change can be.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Nice. There you go. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. That was great. Very good. We're getting to some depths here and some layers, which I love. I'm all about this. That's good.
Yeah.
I think in my experience, now my dad is someone who he was very, very like affectionate in the sense of letting you know that he loved you, which was something I was very happy and very really appreciated my dad in that sense. Because he was someone who kind of taught me the sense of when you are proud of someone, when you love someone, you tell them. And so I thought that was something that was always a special thing. There's a lot of moments, a lot of memories that I have where it would be my dad and I just sitting together and listening to music and sipping soda on a porch and just talking, or just not even saying anything, or just watching the sunset and then seeing the stars. And then eventually getting into some kind of a discussion. It was never too deep. We didn't talk too much. We never reflected on God, because he didn't really believe. But it would end up like Josh, I'm proud of you. I'm happy in the man that you're becoming, and I love you very much, and all that stuff. And that would always I had a lot of moments like that, which was great. It really, really helped my vision of God, knowing that he was someone who was personable and cared about you. And that kind of reflected in my relationship with God early on. But my dad also had a temper. He was kind of, not so much anymore. Obviously, he's softened out quite a bit as he's gotten older, and since I've had kids. So there'd be moments where he would get very angry and would do things that were out of his anger, and that impacted how I viewed God. If I, in that sense, kind of like what you were talking about a little bit, Zach, where if I do something wrong, it's going to be bad, you're going to feel it. And so that was something that definitely affected my relationship with the Lord, but then also to this kind of intentionality and lack thereof. So my dad was someone who, and he still is, he is there, but he's not really there. He'll sit with you in a room, but he won't engage with you, or he won't really talk with you unless it's kind of on his terms. And so there's kind of this and I don't want to bash him, because obviously I love him and I respect him as my dad. So there's this sense of kind of this egocentrism, where this kind of I guess just a selfishness of where if I want to do something, I'm going to do it, and if I'm going to, and I don't really care what you have to say or what you think about something, but I'm going to kind of do it. But then also, that's the only time I engage. But again, other than the nice moments I've had. And then outside of that, it's nothing. It's kind of quiet. I'm there, but I'm not really actively involved. And so this year, I've really been thinking about that in the sense of how my relationship with God has been. And I really see it amplified in the midst of kind of the struggles that, I've been open about, that I've kind of been experiencing the past year and a half, where I've kind of projecting that image upon God. I know you're there, but you're not doing anything. Where it's God, you're here, but move, please. Why aren't you active? And of course, he's not. He is there and he is active. It's just that's kind of the image that I'm projecting of I see him, he's present, but he's not engaging. He's just kind of there. And I just think that that's something that I'm like, that image is breaking, which is a good thing, because I'm learning that like he is loving and he is active and he is a part of everything and he's with you and he's holding and he's sustaining you. And that even my dad in those moments where sure he wasn't as engaging, but he was there, and his presence alone was enough to hold things together. You know, his presence there, just by him being there, you know, he could have been gone and then everything would have unraveled. But the fact that he was there meant that he was showing his presence, his love, his activity, although it didn't look like the way that I may have wanted it to look like, but it still broke through my projection of what it should look like.
It's good.
And so that's kind of what I've been really reflecting on in this past year or so, you know, and then how I view my dad, and obviously as years have gone by, I've strengthened my relationship with my dad, because it was rough for a little while, because we would fight a lot, and I was at a point where I was like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't like you, and I don't want to like you, and I don't want to really talk to you. And so like I remember I went like 2 years in college where like I didn't even talk to him. Like I would like not see him, or I like wouldn't go home. Like I would just like do other stuff. And but it came time during a retreat. It was a search retreat. And of course, if you know anything about the search retreat, you get the palancas. And that was huge, because like my mom and my dad wrote me a palanca. And just for my dad to be there was like, and then in writing in it, and like it just was like the world to me. And then in that moment, I like forgave him. It's like, I need to forgive my dad. And so I did. And then from there, it just like blossomed into what it is today, which is much better. But
amazing. It's good.
But yeah, so that's kind of my breakthrough with that, with my relationship with my dad, and how that is reflected. And you know, this is still a work in progress. Like I'm still figuring this out, you know, on a daily basis, and on a daily basis it changes, you know, depending on how I'm feeling or how I'm projecting, you know, whatever it is. Just is how relationships work, you know. Sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad, you know. It's just the way of life. But yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about. But yeah, you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, I'm really glad, man, that you've made that progress, and that you've gotten some of these breakthroughs. And yeah, because I think it's just, and also I love that you said like you're reframing some of the ways you see your dad, which helps you reframe some of the ways you see God.
Yeah.
And I feel like personally myself, I feel like I'm, you know, I'm also like working on this and like working on the things I talked about. And you know, for me, it's getting through into my skull, you know, that just like how my parents and my dad, you know, they love me as long as I try. They're not results based, you know, as long as I try my hardest and as long as I'm giving myself into something, they'll always be proud of me for that. They won't be proud if I, you know, don't try and I just kind of, but as long as I try, they'll always be proud of me. And like, so it's getting myself to see that in God, and just like, as long as you try your hardest like that, and you're trying to, if your intention is to follow me, it doesn't matter if you get all of it right. Like I'll be proud if you just try. Like if you just try, if your intentions are good, and that I don't have to do things exactly in certain ways to like please people. Because as I said, like my biggest thing I'm growing up is I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to disappoint anybody. And so me having to work through that is that I'm not a burden, or I can't be, and like I can't disappoint anybody. And I think definitely this past year I've been trying to work on that. So like reframing, as I said, reframing. That's a lot, because like my dad, as I said, would do things for me, but it's not in reality. The truth is, it's not because my dad didn't think I couldn't do them. It's because like he wanted me to be able to do other things, like, you know, to give my attention and time to other things, whether it be sports or school or whatever it may be. And he grew up in a he grew up in a family where a lot wasn't done. His relationship with his parents was not great. And a lot of his growing up had to do, like, he did a lot of stuff for himself. Like he had to live independently in a lot of ways. And I love my grandparents, so this isn't meant to be bashing my grandparents, and it's different times and things like that. So I think that's why. So it's like seeing that's why he does the things the way he did them, is because he doesn't want me to have to struggle like that. And that's, once again, it's the love he wanted, so it's the love he's giving.
Yes.
Which is still great love. It's still amazing love. And there, yeah. So I mean, but yeah, it's just about framing everything correctly in my own head and seeing things. And I mean, overall, I really love my dad, and I love, like, and I don't know. I even hope that, I mean, we have a great relationship now, but I even hope it, like, kind of can go further and go deeper. And yeah, but so anyway, yeah. So I guess this, the reframing thing, I really liked what I'm trying to say, Josh. Just like the idea, it's not just about, like, hey, your dad's bad and God's not like your dad. It's like, well, if you look at certain things about your dad and the way he's trying differently, then you can start seeing that with God. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I think, just to kind of wrap this up, like, I think one thing that men should be aware of, and especially as we all kind of grow up and become fathers, and me especially, and you guys hopefully in the future, is, like, you have to understand, like, that is your role as dad. Mm-hmm. Is to give to pass on the faith, to educate your kids, to teach them, to cultivate a place of peace and joy and love, sacrifice. But then also that realize that you're imaging the Father for them, like, the Father, and to kind of have that as, like, in the back of your head. And obviously I'm not good at it, like, I'm not, and I have to work on that. And today was a breakthrough, and I've had a lot of moments where I have, but, like, for the most part, but because we're all brokenness, we have brokenness, whatever, but like, to remember that, and to let that be, like, the foundation of our parenting and the foundation of our love to the world, honestly, is we're here to image the Father and to show people the face of Christ, and to love them the way he did, and to lay our lives down the way that he did, and to to do all that stuff. So always remembering that and keeping that as the foundation of our relationships, especially in fatherhood.
Yeah. Just, yeah, keep in mind, everyone who's a dad, that kids will get more from what they observe than from what they learn, if that makes sense. So, like, what they see and hear you doing is going to be more important than what you teach them.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a dad, that's completely true.
And the first step of evangelizing your kids is just to love them. Love them the way God loves you. And that's literally step one. If you do, you can, that's literally probably the most important thing you can do as a dad. Like, even if you don't teach them fancy catechetical whatever, like, as long as you show them what God is like, that's your number one mission.
Yeah, even if it's just something little, like just looking at them, like seeing them, like getting the eye contact, letting them know that I see you, like your dad sees you, And I think that's like a big place just to start. Because, we have a lot of distractions as men. We're kind of looking at other things constantly. And so sometimes it's hard for us to be like, to listen to that voice who's saying, Dad, look at me, and Dad over here, Dad, listen, Dad. Especially me, and then when you don't, directions.
Yeah.
But then when you don't, it's just this letdown, this kind of cast down that they feel because of your power as the dad. Because they are looking for that attention, because they want to see that you're seeing them. And so doing that is really important. Even if just starting there. So, like, if you're working on this and your dad, like, just look at your kids when they say look at me, or just notice them. Something I like to do before bed is I'll go up to them and I'll, like, cup their face in their hands. Yeah, and I'll just go real close to them and I'll look at them in the face and I'll just say I love you. And I do that to all of them. And it's just like this moment because I want them to know that and to see dad's love in his eyes is reflecting in them, and for them to like to know it deep down. That's I'm really big on that. So to take that and do that. I think
do any of them ever cut your face back?
Eli does. Eli does. Yeah.
Nice.
He'll
Nice.
do that. It's always just like
See?
really
Already
cute.
teaching them something.
There you go. Hey. But yeah. Yeah. So I hope you guys got something good today. All of us here. You three, us three, you three. I mean,
we can talk to ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. You three.
Yeah. Like our fathers loving us, we have to love ourselves too. You know, talk to yourself, love yourself, or whatever.
Yeah.
Do what we got to do.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I guess one last note is to remember anyone who's even not a father, remember that you're like a father figure to someone more than likely. Because I mean, there's a lot of people out there without dads too, but even those, even aside from them, I mean, like you're a teacher, you're a coach, I don't know, you're in ministry, like, you know, you're a dad figure in one way, shape, or form. So you might not have as much impact as their actual dad, but you still have a little bit of impact. So like, make sure you also reflect.
Well said. Good point.
Yeah.
God's love. Yeah.
So. Exactly. Because you can have that impact on them, even just as well, you know, especially if they are lacking in like a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
So good stuff. All right.
Who's gonna pray us out? Me or you, Joe? You haven't prayed in a while.
Yeah, I haven't prayed in a while.
I'll tag us then. All right. So for everyone listening, if you want to keep listening and maybe also get other people to listen, we are on Spotify and YouTube. So check us out there, share us there, and like, comment, subscribe, do all those fancy things that help us with the algorithm so that we can reach more people. If you want to get in contact with us, aside from commenting on our videos, you can also send us an email, seizingvalor@gmail.com. So whether you want to just start a conversation or give us some nice comments, or if you have a question, we'd be more than happy to engage with you. You can also find more content on Instagram @Seizing Valor. So we post some thingies on there, some previews and other content. So check that out. And am I missing anything else, everyone? Anyone? So just like, subscribe, share, especially anybody you think might need, whether it's one episode or the entire show. If there's something that resonates particularly with you and you think someone could use it, just share it. Just share that. Even if it's a clip, share it.
Yeah, I feel like we've been having some solid episodes recently, and I would love for people to actually see them. Or to hear it, to listen.
Yeah. So we appreciate all of you who do share, because really, I mean, we can do as much advertising and extra content as possible, but really how this all gets out there is by you guys plugging it, for us, and, sharing it with other people that you think would get a lot out of it. So we thank you and we appreciate you. So, great. And we love you. We're not your dads, but we love you. All right, take it away, Joe.
All right, let's bow our heads, gentlemen. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this discussion. Thank you so much for this day. And thank you so much for my two gentlemen here, one who is an incredible father and another who is an incredible father figure, both of which I get so much influence from. The truth is, God, there's a lot of brokenness in this world where there are fathers that, wouldn't even consider themselves fathers, God, ones that are not protectors, not providers. And then you have those on the opposite side that are looking for guidance, looking for the right influences to figure out like who they are, who they can be as a father figure. Even the best dads in the world, they mess up, God, but our Heavenly Father, you're never going to make a mistake or fail us ever. You're the perfect example of what it means to be a father. Even if we as your children feel defeated, lost, hurt, abandoned, that isn't you at all. our relationship with you, God, it just outshines every single relationship because you are the perfect example, God. So I pray, and I just want to lift up every person that's listening to this episode, listen to any segment of Seizing Valor. If they're feeling lost or hurt, that they would know that you, as the perfect example of what it means to be a father, that they're nestled with that thought and nestled in the hope that they're taken care of. In your most precious and holy name, amen.
Right.
Thank you all for attending, and we will see you all next week.
I love you, Dad, if you're listening.
Love you, Dad. Love you, Dad.
You too, Dad, but you're probably not listening.